Without further ado, let me share my screen one more time. We're going to get into the meat of the matter. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Is it the one saying Caribbean Insights? That's what you're saying?
Yes, that's right. Caribbean Insights 2020.
2022. Okay, beautiful. Okay, everyone. So in my presentation, I'm just going to be going through some general trends and patterns on student mobility. And so let's get straight to it. Before I get really into the meat of the matter, there are some terms I'm going to use, and I want to qualify some of the country markets that I cover. So firstly, I want to reiterate CARICOM, which stands for Caribbean Community. This is a regional bloc comprising 20 member states, 15 full members, and 5 associate members. CARICOM is a trade bloc in a sense, but we do partner on various issues. Education is one of them. Hence, CXC is one of the products of CARICOM and entities that represent us on a regional level, not just within our region, but outside of our region when it comes to matters related to education. So our primary focus will be the CARICOM bloc in the Caribbean region. And I'm going to focus specifically on the English-speaking countries within CARICOM, because CARICOM also includes Haiti and Suriname, which are French and Dutch speaking. But within that English-speaking group, I'm not going to be referring to the Bahamas or Belize, okay? So in the English-speaking group, every country that is English-speaking except the Bahamas and Belize. The information and data that I'm speaking on is pulled from the Student Center's CutFest database, as well as our student database from the 2021 to 2022 recruitment cycle. So overall, there's always an interest in studying abroad, and it continues to grow. I will say over the last 5 years, it's become more of a normalized point of discussion among students at various levels of study. There are many reasons why persons will consider studying abroad, but what the general consensus is that there's an interest everywhere and it's going to continue to grow. Now, we know that the pandemic would have contracted the industry a bit when it comes to applications and enrollments, since we had a global shutdown and we're still recovering from that. But we've seen a rebound in applications and enrollments over the last year or so, more the latter part of 2021, and we do see a healthy growth for 2022. Now, the Caribbean region is an immediate option for students when it comes to pursuing college and university studies. Outside of the Caribbean, our top 3 destinations are Canada, which stands at number 1. Number 2 will be the US, and number 3 will be the UK. Now, we do have some emerging study destinations that have been trending over the last 5 years, namely Australia, Germany, the Netherlands, and Ireland. Germany has been trending because there obviously is the notion that you can enter a German institution and not pay for tuition. Obviously, there are qualifiers and conditions for that, but there have been students that have considered Germany as an option. We're basing this on inquiries and a couple of applications that we've seen over the last 5 years. Ireland has picked up a bit. I think some of this might be due to the fact that there's even now a direct flight to Ireland coming from Barbados, for example. So airlift is positive. And Ireland, because there's certain areas and programs that might be more accessible to students. So we found that we've had good success with medicine, as well as areas such as physiotherapy. Now, when we look at the region as a source market for students, some of our top markets will be Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago. That is not in any particular order. It's in alphabetical order, actually, but not to say that the most is Barbados, but those are our top 3 source markets. But other source markets from the group of countries that I'm speaking about that I think should definitely still be on everyone's radar will be Antigua and Barbuda, Guyana, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia. Now, when it comes to inquiries and applications received, 70% are for undergraduate level studies. And I want to qualify that here by saying undergraduate level studies don't necessarily point to only bachelor degree programs, but we are also looking at college diploma programs, associate degree programs, university foundation prelim years, advanced diplomas. So there are a variety of undergraduate level qualifications that students would inquire about and actually apply to. Postgraduate level studies make up approximately 25%, and this is really a growing market and target group as well. And At the postgraduate level, the highest mainly masters, but over the years, we've seen a trend in for fast track programs, postgraduate diploma, and certificate programs as well. About 5% are for more short-term courses, and that will be courses that are less than 6 months, as well as boarding school. And for boarding school, the UK and Canada, those are two of the main destinations that students might consider for boarding school. We've had a couple queries at the fairs, persons asking about the US and even Spain, but not in comparison to Canada and the United Kingdom. Some of the main concerns among students and parents will be health and safety. And health more so, and we all know the pandemic would have made us more tuned to that. And the concern comes from the ability to access healthcare, knowing that they have a sense of, they feel confident that their son or daughter will be well taken care of, and that there won't be any issues of discrimination regarding citizenship, race, or ethnicity. So that is one of some of the concerns when we look at health and safety. Two is finance, and I don't think that this is unique to the region. This is everywhere. We all like to make sure that we can get value for money, and finance may come in terms of not always looking for scholarships. I think some persons are realistic that they're going to have to spend some money, but if they do look at scholarships, it's a matter of maybe it could supplement a deficit, not necessarily for the entire state of study, even though you have those that are looking for a complete full scholarship. But I don't think that those numbers are significant in comparison to those who might just be looking for a partial or so forth. And employability. Persons are more price conscious. They're measuring their return on investment from the consumer side. So they want to know that this qualification that they invest in for whatever amount of time would allow them to enter the job market successfully, whether they enter the job market upon their return to their home country, or that they can move to another country outside the country of study, or that there are even opportunities within the country of study. Challenges affecting mobility. Immigration for the last 2 years has been one of them. We've had some delays, particularly around the US front, some with the Canadian front as well, and the English front. But from the UK side, it's more tied to number 5, which is exam results and the late release of results, not allowing students to be able to start at the intended start date. So we've had quite a few deferrals for the UK bound ones. Number 2 will be access to finance or credit. We found that countries with a well-developed system of financial institutions providing products and services to finance education, there's a higher sense of mobility there. 3, delivery mode of program. Online, I think people are online fatigued. For us, for business, is really cost effective and we love it sometimes, but a lot of students are online fatigued. So most of the ones coming this year are only going to go if they can actually go in person. And 4, vaccination requirements. There's a small group, but noticeable group of persons that are still not vaccinated. And obviously it impacts their choices when they're looking outside of the Caribbean. So that we've had quite a few students who do not want to get vaccinated. Also, for some, for medical reasons, they can't. So there've been a few challenges there. Last and not least, I want to point to some potential business opportunities. Mark earlier would have spoken about partnerships, but there are options. I see some opportunities for schools if they're looking at beyond just traditional student recruitment or ways to boost student recruitment strategically. One of those opportunities will be the provision of math supplemental courses. I know that over the last couple of years, and a lot of you in this panel know that some of our students may not always have the higher level math required to matriculate directly. That seems to still be a growing issue. And sometimes it's not a matter that they don't qualify, but that their timetable constraints might not allow them to take the courses that they really want to take in addition to the math. Sometimes there's scheduling conflicts. And so having supplemental options, I know there's online school options, but I think that this is an area that there's growth and there's potential. 2, adult high school credentials. We still do have an underserved community where there are adults that maybe when they were going to school, they weren't quite ready to be the best student, but now they're ready, but they need to have some type of option outside of what may be immediately available to them at home that will allow them to still pursue their dream of studying abroad. And there are quite a few in this group, especially I find in the OECS region. And one of the limitations would be not always having enough high school credentials. And some of them, yes, we can tell them take CXCs. That is always an option, but some of them, for whatever reason, may not want to. And that group is quite noticeable. So I think that this is an area, if schools have programs that can attend to this group, that would be great. Also, bridging and our foundation courses, and bridging in particular professional areas such as maybe even nursing and physiotherapy. Those are two areas that are very popular and trending, but sometimes there's issues in the matriculation and ability to enter programs because they may lack certain things according to the institution or the destination, the country that they're going to. So in a nutshell, this is our general overview of the market. I want to turn quickly to our Caribbean Student Mobility Index. We created this index, I would say about 5 or 6 years ago to provide an empirical picture on Caribbean student mobility. It's based on a rubric comprising 6 categories of socioeconomic indicators. Now for this is not based on a student's ability to be interested or to apply. This is about bums in seats. And we know this term for a person to think about studying abroad, apply, and then actually go. And so based on the countries we've selected and that sit on the index right now, Barbados has the highest level of mobility. So actually getting students to successfully enroll, there's a higher level coming from Barbados, then followed by Antigua and Barbuda. Guyana is up a point considering last year. And I know everyone's thinking about pointing to their new oil and gas discovery and the refining and the selling of their oil. The all have gone above the service now and they're in full rate gear, but a lot of that has not yet filtered. However, there's been some positive remarks on allocating some funding and investing more in education and opportunities for their students to build capacity. So we think in another 5 to 10 years, you might start to see a lot of those results filtering on. Then St. Kitts and St. Lucia, they're pretty moderate. With St. Kitts, I think they're a stronger market because for them, they have even less options. And from traveling to St. Kitts and dealing with students from St. Kitts, there's always a leaning to the tend to go outside. So it's a good market for all study destinations, a good potential market. Grenada has the lowest mobility, and that stems a lot to access to finance as well as some socioeconomic factors. We use this tool to help develop marketing and recruitment strategies and to help inform schools that we work with. So this is the index for 2022 to 2023 recruitment cycle. Now, as you guys plan and think about what you're going to promote and how you're going to recruit, these are some trending sectors for the region. So health and wellness, oil and gas, cannabis production, fintech, hospitality and tourism. And I want to put a pin here with edutourism. While we are a source market, the region is also a receiver of international students, not so much from our indigenous institutions, but we are home to a lot of offshore medical schools across the region, including here in Barbados, where I am. St. Kitts they also receive international students because of the veterinary schools that they have there. Grenada has vet and medicine. There are medical schools in St. Lucia, Antigua, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So a lot of these countries are home to international schools who have satellite campuses or full campuses. They will come in and attract students from North America, Europe, Africa, and India. So we do believe that there's going to be growth and that all the governments are looking to develop this sector. Additionally, heritage and cultural tourism. Tourism is not going to go away from the Caribbean. Our geography and how we're set up is definitely one of our predominant sectors for revenues across many of our CARICOM member states. So here are a few expectations. We're optimistic for the upcoming recruitment cycle. We do expect an increase in applications and enrollments, definitely an increase in postgraduate applicants, an increase in January 23 applications and enrollments. and increasing applications to trade and vocational programs. So any of you carrying those type of programs, there's definitely a great interest in that area. We do expect a rebound in applications to the UK and other emerging study destinations. And we do expect our school systems across the country markets to regularize as we come out of the pandemic. And I'm going to put a pin here. I know I went through that information pretty quickly, but you can send me any queries, questions, and I can address them in the Q&A. And I'm going to move on to CXC.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Ms. Sheena Aline. Thank you for the invitation. And let me just, at the start of this session, also acknowledge Mrs. Martha LeMay from the High Commissioner of Canada, and also my other distinguished colleagues who are joining from the Barbados Accreditation Council, Mr. Marcus Myers. Let me also welcome and greet those participating from higher education institutions across the globe. And I extend greetings on behalf of Dr. Wayne Wesley, Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Examinations Council. And a special thank you to the High Commission of Canada and the Student Center for this invitation to participate. I'm also joined by my colleague, Mr. Alton McPherson, Senior Manager in Examinations and Development and Production Department, CXC, and other colleagues from CXC. My presentation will provide, as it says in the title, an overview of CXC and its qualifications for matriculation. And I'd also like to thank again Ms. Elaine for her remarks about CARICOM, so I won't necessarily linger on those too long. So thank you again and welcome. So the overview, as I just mentioned, overview of CXC, some matters as it relates to partnership, recognition, and our regional examinations. Hopefully you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Great, wonderful. Okay, so the Caribbean Examination Council was established in 1972 under agreement by the participating governments in the Caribbean community, CARICOM, and that was referenced earlier. So CXC's background and purpose, or authority and mandate, comes from the agreement of governments to offer regional assessments, and that is since 1972. And that's to conduct such examinations that it may think appropriate and award certificates and diplomas on the results of the examination so conducted. So I won't necessarily linger on these slides too long because Ms. Aline has already mentioned these, but it's important to just, there are 20 countries, 15 member states, and these are the member states for, just for recognition: Antigua, Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, etc. And you can see them there. And the associate members are here. From a CXC's perspective in relation to our partnerships and participating countries, these are the 16 participating countries which will obviously be members of CARICOM. And the organization collaborates with Curacao, Saba, St. Martin, St. Eustatius, and Suriname. CXC's vision: a digitally transformed enterprise providing quality, relevant, and globally recognized educational services. And our mission: we develop the human capital of our Caribbean people through partnerships for global competitiveness. And I'll come on to partnerships as we go along. CXC is a regional examining body that provides examinations for secondary and post-secondary candidates in Caribbean countries. CXC offers a wide range of subjects, as you can see there, academic, technical, and vocational areas. In addition, the organization provides services to educational institutions in the development of syllabuses, examinations, and examinations administration. Let me move on to CXC's qualifications. So we start at the primary level, Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, we call CPEA. Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level Competence, CCSLC, Caribbean Vocational Qualifications, and that speaks for itself, Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examinations, and CXC's Associate Degree. From this slide, you'll see CXC's qualifications and what they actually cover in terms of key literacies that are required, foundational programs, the specific technical skills that are required, etc. And when we look at honing on, say, for example, CSEC, completion of 5 years of secondary level, entry standards for further study or the world of work, CAPE, pre-university program, foundation blocks for tertiary education, and the CXC associate degree facilitates advanced job placement or career focus, which provides credits for degree level studies. And I think most of the institutions online will be familiar with both CSEC and CAPE subjects, as you can see here, and to some degree, the CXC associate degree. CXC's examination system focuses on using criterion reference, which measures a student's performance based on mastery of a specific set of standards, as opposed to norm reference, which measures a student's performance in comparison to the performance of a larger group. CX grading system focuses on profiles. And if you see here for a CSEC, you'll see profile grades, which focus specifically on knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and the grading levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Outstanding, B, so those are equivalent. Outstanding, A, B, good, and it's their explanatory. And the overall grade, grades 1 to 3, recognized as acceptable. From the CSEC General Proficiency offers candidates deeper understanding of the topics covered in the subject and designed for learners who are likely to pursue studies in the subject beyond the secondary level. From a technical proficiency, candidates with technical proficiency will have the skills and knowledge to pursue tertiary education or to be employed at pre-technical levels. And we now move to the grading system for CAPE, which is modularized and 1 and 2 unit courses. A 1 unit course consists of 3 modules. A 2 unit course consists of 6 modules. Overall grades 1 to 5 recognized as acceptable grades. And the grading system speaks to grade 1. I won't labor on these. And I think this will be similar to other exam boards or awarding bodies, as you would say. Grade 1 shows excellent grasp of principles, concepts, and skills. Grade 2 shows very good grasp of principles, concepts, and skills. Grade 3 shows good grasp of principles, concepts, and skills, etc., etc. So CAPE qualifications, you have the CAPE certificate, successful completion of any CAPE unit, the CAPE diploma, successful completion of 6 units of CAPE, including Caribbean studies, CXC associate degree, successful completion of 10 CAPE units in a specific course of study. And we have the CXC associate degree framework. General education courses, including Caribbean studies, communication studies, integrated mathematics, not required for maths majors, and 18 credits. Core courses, 4 CAPE units relevant to the area of specialization, and 24 credits. Adjunct supporting courses, 2 CAPE units chosen from humanities and fine arts and natural, physical sciences and technology, or social and behavioral sciences, 12 credits. And electives, any CAPE unit, which would be 16 credits. And the CXC associate degree is the CAPE subjects are the foundation of CXC's associate degree and is recognized by a number of institutions, which include the University of the West Indies, University of Guyana, United Kingdom NARIC, I think the name has changed recently, the Association of Indian Universities, and several Canadian and United States universities. Recognition and articulation, and this is an important area for us as we continue to look at expanding our partnerships. So CSEC had early recognition from way back in the 1980s by Joint Matriculation Board, University of Cambridge Local Examinations Syndicate, and ACRO. UCAS, the clearinghouse, as many from the UK will be familiar, they accept CXC qualifications, and they state in their documentation that CSEC is acceptable at the general or technical proficiency levels on a subject for subject basis in lieu of GCSEs, provided that grade 3 or better has been achieved. Would be required to be supplemented by the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examinations, CAPE, as we're talking about, GCSE levels, Scottish Highers, and other qualifications. In addition, CAPE is acceptable at the 2-unit level in lieu of GCA levels on a subject for subject basis. So that is basically indicating that CSEC is equivalent to GCSEs and CAPE to GCA levels. World Education Services, which is a international credential assessment agency. They equate the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, CSEC, to secondary school diploma in Canada and high school diploma in the US. When it comes to the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examinations, WES recommends 8 undergraduate credits in the US and Canada for each subject passed at both the 1-unit and the 2-unit levels. The American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admission Officers, ACRO, is a professional association with 11,000 plus members representing 2,600 institutions from 40 countries. Their electronic database for global education is a leading US resource for evaluating credentials, and they recommend the following. CSEC is comparable to completion of senior high school in the United States, and each unit of CAPE course represents completion of 1 undergraduate freshman level course in the United States. Each 2-unit CAPE course represents completion of the introductory sequence of that subject in the United States, and credit may be awarded for academic subjects on a course-by-course basis. What we've seen as an organization in the last few years as we continue to strengthen partnerships as it relates to MOUs with international higher education institutions, once they conclude their mapping process, we are recognizing that credits are given for CAPE and CSEC subjects. So in relation to recognition, the Association of Indian Universities as well has recognized CXC's qualifications, CSEC, CAPE as well. And as you can see, it mentions the equivalence of CAPE with a minimum of 5 subjects with plus 2-stage qualifications of an Indian board. I referenced strategic partnerships earlier, and this is specifically as it relates to articulation agreements. And for those who are online, I'm sure you all know that an articulation agreement is an officially approved agreement that matches coursework between schools and institutions. And these are basically designed to assist students to matriculate smoothly once they have a transferring with a CXC CAPE qualification to a degree granting institution. My next slide is just a few quotes from 2 of our most recent institutions that we signed articulation agreements with last year. And the first one is from Western Illinois University. We recognize the quality and rigor of the curriculum, and we are delighted to ensure that the outstanding students from the Caribbean receive full credit for their hard work when they enroll at Western Illinois University. And that was from Dr. Martin Abraham, Provost and Academic Vice President at the time, Western Illinois University. And I spoke earlier about credits, and we find that almost, for the best part, every institution that we sign articulation agreements with, they offer credits to students. And finally, as it relates to the quote, this is from Dr. James Johnston, Interim President of Midwestern State University. With this agreement, we also recognize and appreciate the Caribbean Examination Council for its exceptional quality and credentials, I say all of this to characterize the importance of this articulation agreement to improve transferability of coursework to Midwestern State University and thereby better serve all of our students. So this is the process. So for those who are on board participating today, we're also seeking to reach out to you as well in terms of partnerships. What we recognize is that students, when they know that an institution has an articulation agreement with CXC and they go on our website, they can actually see, and they can see the names of the institutions and tap into the institution because they already know that these institutions recognize our qualifications. All institutions that go through the articulation process also go through a mapping process. So the 2022 regional examinations. So the format for this year has reverted, as in last year as well, to the original format, and that is for CAPE and CSEC and the other examinations. The original timetable was for May, June, 2nd of May to the 10th of June for CAPE and 2nd of May to the 3rd of June 2022. The exams were rescheduled for 3 weeks following a meeting with our governance committees, which is made up of representatives from governments from across the region, and it was delayed by 3 weeks. So the format for CAPE and CSEC, paper 1, paper 2, and 031, school-based assessment. So paper 1 is multiple choice, paper 2 is the written paper. Governance board. So this is the meeting I was referencing earlier at a meeting of CXC Schools Examinations Committee and Council or Governing Board held on 27th of April 22. It was determined that the examination would commence on the 23rd of May 2022, 3 weeks later than scheduled. What does this mean for results? So the timelines for the release of results, which were indicated at the time, results would be released late August, early September 2022. Candidates can also request an early release of results, and this allows the results to be sent quickly to the universities or colleges within a few days of the release of the official release of results. What we have also done, and I hope I haven't gone over too long, if I have, what we've been doing is working with the Council for Higher Education Accreditation in the United States, universities UK, international, and sensitizing them to the fact that examination results are going to be late. And we would also implore our colleagues online, our distinguished institutions online, to also offer special consideration. For those who have not received a letter from CXC, we will be happy to do so. And I will share my details at the end of the session. So thank you once again. And it's been a pleasure participating.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rose. I learned quite a bit in that presentation. Although we are here, there's always room for learning. So thank you for that informative presentation, especially about informing us about the 2022 results. I hope everyone will reach out to Mr. Rose after this session to learn more or to get more details. Mr. Rose, don't be a stranger to this webinar. It is going to happen every year. So we would love to definitely make sure that CXC is always a part of it. I'm going to move on to our final panelist. That is Mr. Marcus Myers from the Barbados Accreditation Council. And for those students coming from Barbados, you schools in the panel will get to understand the importance they actually play in the students' ability to move. Over to you, Marcus.
Thank you very much, Sheena. And again, thank you for the Student Caribbean for having me. I know that this is a very important event, and wherever you are, whether it is morning, afternoon, evening, I'm not sure what your time zone might be, but I do thank you for listening to this. So I would like to add to this seminar by giving you a brief understanding of the Barbados Accreditation Council and exactly what we do. So again, my name is Marcus Myers and I am the Information Officer at the BAC, and we'll get straight into it. Okay, so we're going to go through the roles, functions, and services of the Barbados Accreditation Council with a direct emphasis on how exactly we can assist when it comes to strategic partnerships and also making partnerships ourselves. So I'm going to go through the mission of the council, the two broad roles of the council, the functions and responsibilities of the council, as well as the services that we offer that will be relevant to foreign entities as well as students who will be going to those foreign entities or coming to Barbados as well. So this is basically going to be all around recruitment, but I will touch on some other services that we offer that may be something different from what we're speaking about today. So the Barbados Accreditation Council's mission statement is basically to be a world-class, dynamic quality assurance agency for education and training. And we were established by an act of parliament in 2004, and we have two broad roles. Our first broad role is the registration and re-registration of institutions, as well as the accreditation and re-accreditation of these institutions, as well as programs of study. I'm going to give some time to the definition of registration and accreditation in the next few slides. The next broad role would be that we grant certificates of recognition of Caribbean communities skill qualification to applicants who satisfy the requirements for recognition as skilled CARICOM nationals and verifying of certificates of recognition of CARICOM skills qualification by other member states as well. So to give you an overview of what the CARICOM skill certificate is, the CARICOM skill certificate, many years ago, the CARICOM leaders had envisaged that with the many skills that many CARICOM nationals have, whether it be artisans, artists, university graduates, musicians, security guards, agricultural workers, what if there was a way to ease the way in which persons travel and to facilitate travel using a document in which they can go to different CARICOM countries using their skill, where their skill would be in higher demand than their home country, to not only benefit that country, but also to benefit themselves as well. So this is how the CARICOM skill certificate emerged. So this is one of the two broad roles, again, and it is the most popular service that we have at the Accreditation Council, but due to the nature of this presentation, I wouldn't really get too much into the weeds of that, and I'm going to stick to the main, the first role that I would have spoken about, which should be registration, accreditation, and also the quality assurance services that we provide. So the functions and responsibilities, we register local, regional, and foreign-based institutions that would be domiciled in Barbados. We also maintain a record of all institutions that are registered and accredited by the council, where you can see that record of the accredited and registered providers. I will show you that in a few minutes. And also we provide for the validation of new educational courses and programs being offered by institutions operating in Barbados. So within our database, when we have registered and accredited providers, we keep tabs on them, and also we help them along the way when it comes to maintaining and ensuring quality in their offering when they are here in Barbados. We also promote a program of accreditation and registration. We try our best to market the purpose and also the benefits, advantages, not only of registration, but of accreditation to anyone that is opening a school or offering a program at the post-secondary and tertiary level. And finally, one of the most important things relevant to this presentation is that we advise on the recognition of foreign-based institutions and their awards. A few more things that we do that I will touch on would be that we determine the equivalency of programs and qualifications. Now, the definition of equivalency for us, which is also known as the recognition of qualification service, would basically be that we would be able to determine from foreign-based qualifications where they would compare to local awards and qualifications. So when persons come back to Barbados with a qualification, if they use this service, we can then use a comparability measure so that we can determine exactly where they would fall regarding our own local qualifications. And from there, we also do, we would receive any complaints from any institutions. And this is something to do with, in the event that there is an institution that comes up that may not necessarily be what they are purported to be. And in any case where there is fraud or any, I would say when they market a product that is not necessarily commensurate with the product, we have measures in place to alert and sound the alarm for any students that may want to go to that institution, but that institution has not been assessed as yet. So registration. The aim of registration is to certify that post-secondary and tertiary education and training providers meet and exceed certain standards required to operate in Barbados. An easy way to say that is basically that registration is the minimum requirements needed to function at the post-secondary and tertiary level in Barbados. So when we have these standards in place, then we would say that that institution has met certain criteria to operate in Barbados. So this is a very important point, mainly because there is a bit of sometimes some murky misunderstandings when it comes to the difference between registration and accreditation for not only for students, but also for institutions. So currently we have over 20 institutions registered by the Accreditation Council. For persons that are interested in knowing the list of registered providers with the council, you can go on our website, and our website would have a list of these registered providers, which is updated every quarter, because for persons that come on as new registered providers, as well as those providers who are seeking and have completed re-registration, we would constantly update the website with this information. So the general registration criteria for persons to understand exactly what it is that we use as a rubric to determine the quality that is being offered at this level. Governance and admission. We also look at admission policies, educational programs, staffing and professional development is also vetted. Student assessments, we do student assessments on past students just to see the quality that they are providing as an institution. Student support services, whether or not that institution has support services for the students. We also do an assessment on the physical plant and equipment to make sure that it is up to standard for the service that they are offering. Learning and information services, laboratory services, where applicable. We also look at finances if they have adequate financial statements that can support that they are a functioning, operating business, and as well as an institutional plan. So this is basically an overview of the type of aspects that we would determine. And this is determined by our quality assurance and quality enhancement section in the Barbados Accreditation Council. So accreditation. So the process in which a process in which a program of study or institution is assessed for its standard and given an official recognition. And there are two types of accreditation. There's program accreditation and there is institutional accreditation. Now, remember I said a bit earlier that we have to always distinguish between exactly what registration and accreditation is for persons who would be pursuing higher education, so that they have a general understanding of that when they come to the council. And the difference is just to say that accreditation gives more of an international recognition of the institution by the council, as opposed to the preliminary recognition that registration would give. And there are more institutions that are registered compared to those that are accredited, mainly because accreditation is a voluntary process, right? Some institutions prefer not to go towards accreditation, and that can be for many reasons, whether it be investment or sometimes it could be resources. And as much as we encourage it, it is still a voluntary process, as I said. And also the accreditation process for quality assurance and enhancement is a thorough investigation, and sometimes it can take multiple years depending on where the institution would be in their getting all of their records together, as well as their student body as well as their staff. So sometimes it can be quite difficult to do that for these providers. The next thing is that so registration, as I said, gives a local recognition, but accreditation would more be the international recognition, as well as a transferability of credits that you would be using when students are moving to another country, that they can then have the credits vouched for when they did go to this school, and they can call the wherever it is that they're going, they can call the Barbados Accreditation Council, and we can say yes, they have met a global standard of quality in education. The next service that I would like to show you would be equivalency. Now, I mentioned equivalency before. Equivalency, or we also call it the recognition of qualification service. To give you an idea of what equivalency is, first of all, I would say that recognition is a formal acknowledgement by a competent authority of the appropriateness of a local or foreign-based qualification to access education or employment in the receiving country. And in that vein, basically, equivalency is a determination of the comparability of local and foreign-based qualifications to local awards. So what we would do is when foreign-based qualifications come to the council and persons want to know where they would rank or where they would fall in our own local awards, that is what we would do, and we call that an equivalency. We would equate that to what it is that we have used for a rubric to determine local awards in Barbados, just to see where that will fall in that regard. So we do this for two different diplomas, and I would say courses of study. One would be high school diplomas. We do equivalencies for high school diplomas for persons who have received high school diplomas from the US. And we also do general equivalencies, whether it be for certificates, associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's, etc. So the two types of reports issued would be a standard evaluation report, and this would be a comprehensive evaluation report of exactly where the qualification will be comparable in our local standards, and also what field they would be in, and depending on what the degree would be, an understanding of the industry that they will be falling into. For example, whether it be architecture, whether it be design, whether it be a medical degree, etc., we would give you that evaluation report. We also give a certified statement, and this statement will basically have all of the information that will state that the qualification is comparable to the local award that we have found. The next thing that we do is the recognition of institution or program service. This is our second most requested service by persons that come to the council. And the recognition of institution or program service would basically be that we found that many persons who are interested in a school or program, that it will be important for them to investigate the status of that program to determine the recognition status before they invest their time, their money, their energy, they decide to relocate, etc., that they understand whether or not that institution would be accredited. Now, this is basically what the recognition of institution service would do. We would do that investigation for them. So persons seeking to undertake a program of study must ensure that the provider is recognized or accredited. So this would facilitate the acceptance of the qualification by employers and other post-secondary and tertiary educational providers. So especially when persons are going to pursue a qualification in a foreign country, or whether it be online, many of them come to the council in order for us to do this research so that our quality assurance team can investigate the status before they pursue. When that is done, they would also receive a certified statement, and this would have the specific information relevant to the institution as well as the status of the institution. The final thing that I will touch on is that we establish relationships with national, regional, and international accreditation bodies. So each jurisdiction should have a quality assurance agency, such as the Barbados Accreditation Council is for Barbados. There will be one for each part of the region, and I will go into that now. So one of the professional bodies that we would liaise with would be the Caribbean Area Network for Quality Assurance in Tertiary Education. That would be CANCATE. We've had a strong relationship with CANCATE ever since the inception of the council. We also have INCAHE, which is the International Network for Quality Assurance Agencies in Higher Education. And we also use the databases from the UK National Recognition Information Center. Other accreditation bodies, because we liaise with these accreditation bodies constantly, that we have around the region and also internationally. One would be CAMHP, and this is for our medical institutions. The next would be the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago. For Jamaica, it will be the University Council of Jamaica. And for this would be for multiple countries, the national accreditation bodies of Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Guyana, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And then we also have multiple accreditation bodies that we speak to in outside of the region, which one would be the Council for Higher Education Accreditation, and the next would be the Higher Learning Commission in the US. So when we establish these relationships, we have a goal to make sure that the Barbados Accreditation Council is recognized not only locally, but regionally and internationally. And also we acquire information to assist with decision-making as it pertains to accreditation and related functions to ensure that we are all on the same page regarding the framework of quality that we ensure to make sure that it is indeed something that is standardized. And also networking. We share this information to provide advice and support and the sharing of best practices, experiences, etc. So for contact details, I have my contact details here. You can use our general email address. You can find us also via our website and give us a call. And also I've left the address here, but from here I would open the floor or I would at least hand over to Sheena for Sheena to then move forward to the questions. Yes.
Thank you, Marcus, for your presentation. Just putting things in perspective, you can stop sharing your screen because I'm going to put my screen back up. With the Accreditation Council, for a lot of our students, remember I spoke about financing and accessing financing. For those in Barbados, quite a large percentage are accessing the government student loan financing. And sometimes they are required to go through that process of first verifying the institution's accreditation status. And they have to go to the Accreditation Council to confirm so they can access that financing. Then for them to move on to be able to comfortably go through the study permit or study visa process. So they do play an intricate role for persons going through certain financing channels. There are a couple of financing channels in Barbados. There are other countries across the Eastern Caribbean that do have a similar setup, but Barbados one is pretty extensive in how students can finance and the different facilities that are available. When they're going through a public one, definitely they have to liaise with the Accreditation Council. Upon return, also as somebody who firsthand has all foreign credentials, you have to get all of your documents certified and verified in order to enter the workforce. So that is something that will help you when you are promoting and speaking to students. The assurance that their credentials will be that are legit, they're from an accredited institution. So that is an important factor in this process. So I'm going to open up the floor to any questions that you may have. This is the time. I have one from Mr. Rose already. Thank you very much, Mr. Rose. We are always looking at seamless processing for admitting our students with respect to final CSET and CATE results. Our requirement is to receive final results directly from CXC to consider those results official and for transferable credit where applicable. I have two questions on this premise. The first question, can students request these final results to be sent to the universities electronically instead of mail-in? COVID-19 impacted a lot of our students whose results were sent through mail-in. And number two, as universities could at CXC to authenticate results we consider as unofficial. Who will be the right contact for us to do that? We are aware that there are fees charged to students to make requests of their official results sent directly to institutions. The goal is not to interfere, but when there are emergencies or one-offs to support applicants through our admission and credit transfer process, can we get support from CXC to authenticate results via email requests? Mr. Rose, that's a heavy loaded question for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the questions. Okay, in terms of as it relates to transcripts, they can be sent via email to educational institutions, evaluation agencies, and potential employers only. Obviously, we don't send to the individual specifically. To have this done, candidates must indicate their request when ordering a transcript, and they will do this online. As it relates to point 2, in order for CXC to verify a candidate's results, the school or company must forward a soft copy of the candidate certificate so that we can investigate and verify the authenticity of that document. We only verify certificates or transcripts that we issue. And let me just say this, the request can be sent via CXC, EZO, so CXC, EZO at cxc.org, CXC, EZO at cxc.org. And let me just stress again that we can only verify the authenticity of the document, and we only send them to institutions. I hope that answers the question.
Mr. Rose, can you kindly enter your contact details using the chat option on your?
I certainly can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have another question here. Lisa, I'm not fully understanding your question. So are you asking which Caribbean countries specifically send students to community college? Is that the question? Let me know before I provide a response. Thank you. Oh, well, actually, we have noticed, I can speak specific to what we see at the student center. So we've seen students from Barbados opt to go to two-year colleges. I will qualify that by saying some of them are actually athletes. So some of them will look at the US for two-year junior colleges. When it comes to Canada, all the Sunday markets that we work across send students to community colleges. Canadian colleges are very popular. And so I can't specify, I will say all of them do. So they will have a lot of the Ontario College, especially, they are recipients of a number of students from the region on an annual basis. For the US, though, I will say that there are some countries, it might be smaller, and I found that on observation that a lot of them are athletes. Then some of them may have what we will call dual citizens, but they have both Caribbean nationality and also US citizenship. Okay, so I hope that that was helpful to you, Lisa. Okay, hi, Michael. You mentioned that there is online fatigue. As Canada's online university, could there be a place for Athabasca University in the short term for the supplemental components you identified as a need? Yeah, definitely. And that fatigue might be more for the secondary school students, but you will find that, as I said, there's a growing postgraduate market. And I know there are quite a number of programs that I've seen helping students over the years from who may have considered Athabasca at one point or the other. But I do think that's an area that you could look at because you are set up to do that as well, naturally. So yeah, I hope that helps, Michael. Okay, I have another question here. If there is a clear understanding of the college system transferability in Canada and how education can be used to gain university acceptance. Are you asking, is there a clear understanding? If that is the question, I think there is an understanding, but the truth of the matter is that is, to me, from the years I've been doing this, that there are some clear articulations between colleges and universities in Canada where students can move on to gain admission to start their bachelor's. However, some students may not obviously want to go to these schools that this current college may have an articulation with. And also you have to look at mindset of the market that you're in. In the Caribbean, this is for the most part a university minded market. You can find this across Latin America as well, in Africa. And so some parents, especially if the son or the daughter is coming from a community college, for example, it is harder to tell them to go to a college sometimes to do any type of study, even if it means doing a degree. But in their minds, it is university. So while there is an understanding, and I must say that Canada has done a really good job of explaining both systems, and many years working with the schools and working with the government of Canada. So there's clear knowledge and is reiterated all the time, not just to students and parents, but to educators as well. So there's a lot of sensitization that goes on, but you also have to factor in personal preference. So, and also too, I think there's work on the part of some of the colleges to make that transferability clear, to provide more, to make more opportunities available and options available to students. And so that persons can see sometimes that a bit clearer. That is just my professional opinion on that. But again, personal preference, there's always continuous sensitization. So again, colleges may want to work on that aspect a bit more too. Okay, I have a question here. Hello, Mr. Rose. Will CXC consider having an online portal for universities to go and download official CSET and CATE results for students? This is a service that EdExcel, Pearson, and Cambridge offers and is helpful for students and universities to expedite getting official results for us to clear academic conditions. Mr. Rose.
Thank you for that question as well. Well, CXC is currently exploring e-certificates utilizing blockchain. But as it relates to the question, that's something I will have to take back to colleagues in-house.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Thank you, Salisha, for that question. Okay, hi, Jennifer. Hi, Sheena. You said that employability is a major driver for students choosing their programs of study. However, balancing this with an economic crisis in some countries and job shortages, isn't it just as good to have a degree? This is a loaded question. So Jennifer, I think employability on both sides, not just in the country that they're going to study in, but also at the home country. It is for us to give them a balanced picture. There are job shortages everywhere. We do understand that, but then we have to also break it down to sectors and the skill sets and the needs and demands at the time. There's a combination of many factors that you have to consider when we're looking at the employability. And students fundamentally can't just be looking at a destination just to get employed there. We like to strike a balance. So in advising and counseling students, it's important for them to have a more holistic picture of what is present in their locale. Also regionally, especially coming from the Caribbean, there's so many opportunities in this region alone for students returning, meaning that you hear me talk about CARICOM a lot, and I'm a big proponent of CSME. We have the CARICOM skills certificate where students, once they come back with their credentials, they have access to the CARICOM market to move, travel, work, and develop their skill sets and to find employment. And persons always look at the Caribbean as one of where there's a lack of, but there's always lack everywhere. I've lived in Canada, the UK, and the US. There's lack everywhere. It's a matter of understanding systems and what is available to you. So I think more awareness from even there's a lot of sensitization about CSME, but I am a recipient of that. I use CSME to earn a living and to work. My foreign credentials were vetted by the BAC, and I'm able to move around and look for employment, whether I work self-employed, but I've worked for regional organizations before. There are options here. So while some might be looking to go out of the Caribbean, in advising, our approach is to give them a narrative that is three-tiered: local, regional, and international. And I think that's the approach that we have. We're about promoting and educating global citizens. So they can't just be looking at where they're going to study as the end all. It's to give them a wider purview and managing their expectations. Again, also what I will say too is looking at their financing, because I'm looking to see, okay, if I'm interested in engineering, does it make sense for me to go to degree one time, or can I stop short, do a 2-year program, then maybe get some work with this, because this is what the market might more give me. It might more get a return on my investment at a 2-year and a 3-year as opposed to a 4-year. So they have to sit down to a lot of due diligence on their part to work out their personal situation measured against what's happening in the world today. I know that's a lot I give, but that is my response for that. So I hope that gives some insight. Hi, Olga. I believe you mentioned opportunities on edutourism. What do you mean by that? Well, edutourism is exactly what we're doing now. The edutourism sector encompasses schools coming into the region to conduct business, whether it's to recruit students, do partnerships, as well as whether there are students coming to the region where we have our local and regionally based institutions seeking to bring students from outside here. So there are so many elements and layers to edutourism. So it's tourism, the movement of people for the purpose of education, whether coming in or going out. That's what I meant. I'm going to put my information inside the chat as well. So if anyone has any questions, they can definitely feel free to contact me by email. As well, I'm going to put Tony's information. We're going to take a couple more questions before we close out. What checks and
Go ahead. Just let you know we had another question in the Q&A.
Thanks, Tony. What checks and measures are in place to ensure that receiving universities look after the mental health and emotional well-being of international students? That is a fantastic question, Pauline. Thank you. I know from our little part, we are in constant contact with the students that utilize the Student Center to go throughout their period of study. We hear all of the feedback, the good aspects, the not so great aspects. Over the years, I've had to move students who started at one school and then decided they weren't being, it wasn't what they expected, they weren't being supported, and move them to another one. Sometimes a lot of these students may not have started with us first, but then they found out about us. And again, I also travel to schools. COVID stopped that, but from September, we're actually going to be embarking on our first tour back. We're going to Canada this time to see some schools, primarily in Atlantic Canada, and some Canadians, some schools in Ontario. We have our list and we're going to be visiting. I think, Tony, is 10 days that we're going to be on the road and see how much ground we can cover. Because what I find sometimes is some schools come, the objective is to recruit, bum in a seat, and then that's it. And it's such a heavy investment. And I always say, you know, there should be some level of respect for everyone's dollar bill. Because some parents, the reality is, I see on the ground what they're doing. They're mortgaging houses maybe for a second time. They are putting out security. This money is coming from hard work and labor and sacrifice. So there is a level of expectation that when my son or daughter touches down, that they will be attended to. There are some schools who are gray-headed, and we have our list of those who aren't. And for that, we definitely do our own checks, because what you promote to us, you could say the best things, but we need to go firsthand and see okay, this is what it is, because from our approach, every child is different, every person is different. And so it's important that schools really take this into consideration. COVID showed that mental health, especially, is a growing issue among students. You can't underscore mental health anymore. You can't put it down to say, oh, it's just a little, dismiss it. And it affects everything. It affects performance. It impacts physical well-being. And then also, this is money at stake, because you're leaking money, because no education is free. So these are things we take to heart. I'm not sure if anyone else wants to add anything.
Can I just make a quick point?
Yes, sure. Yes, of course, Mr.
Yes, and this is back to relationship building and strengthening partnerships, because we're very keen to ensure that institutions across the globe, that CXC has a relationship with them, with those institutions, as we try to ensure a smooth transition for students matriculating across the globe. So institutions that fall under the Universities UK International, the Russell Group universities as well, and those institutions that are members of the Council for Higher Education Accreditation and the American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admission Officers. We are interested in hearing from you, and also other institutions, in terms of looking at equivalencies, because a lot of the institutions that approach us as well go through the mapping process of having, so if they don't go for the articulation agreement, they will work as it relates to having equivalency charts developed. So my email has been shared as well. So I look forward to hearing from you and strengthening the partnerships, and also with the Student Center.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Now, I don't see any more questions or comments in the chat. Marcus, you can put your information in the chat as well, so that persons, if want to find out more about the Accreditation Council and how they could have more knowledge, so that they're supporting any potential applicants coming through them and would need to interface with you, especially those coming from Barbados. That will be great. I hope that this session was helpful. We've been chatting for a while. I really appreciate the questions and the comments. We're trying to do this more often. Quite often, major mainstream entities in the international education sector may overlook the Caribbean, and it's not always coming from an authentic voice or a place. So this is really a forum to ensure that you have a place and a go-to to receive those details from persons from the region, working in the region and supporting students coming from the region. We're about creating opportunities for our students and also our local and regional institutions, because we are a part of a global village. So we definitely want to maintain our participation and keep an active presence. I want to thank my panelists. I want to thank Alison and Marv from the High Commission of Canada. This is a long-standing relationship and one that I value so much, because we do have partnerships with other governments, but this is a treasured one for me and how it started. I want to thank you for your support. And I hope that Marv heard the partnership interest, so that we can get that B2B conference coming at some point where we can actually come in person. You can meet us in person and strike good conversations, because sometimes you need a human touch to move things forward and build that momentum. So I think this forum shows there's a great interest for that. Thank you to the CXC team, Mr. Rose, Fulian, Mr. McPherson. Thank you for being a part of this session and working with us. Thank you to the Accreditation Council. Marcus, thank you for being so willing to come in the session and present and show a country perspective what it is for Barbados. We're going to bring this again next year, same time, same place, keep showing up. You might be highlighting another country, another regional organization, but CXA, hope you know that I'm coming again. I'm coming again.
Yeah, and you're always welcome to approach us, because we're likely to accept again.
Marcus, we're gonna have to set up something because we know that we have a lot of Barbadians going out, and there's a need to make sure that they know that you're there and to keep that constant flow of information to all the representatives from wherever you are in the world. I want to say a big heartfelt thanks to staying with us for this long. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Student Center, to myself and my team. Tony, thank you for being in the background there. You never see Tony until you see her at the actual fairs, but she's back there looking at the questions and making sure everything is okay. I just want to highlight to you guys a few things that are coming. We have marketing and recruitment opportunities. Cut Fest is in person this fall. We have a hybrid fair coming starting from October 17th going down to November 13th. November 12th and 13th will be the in-person component. We will be in Barbados. That's that it will be our main stop, our only stop on this round. We're not going to do the country to country, but it will be virtual still, so you have enough time to build up, and then everybody can descend in Barbados. November 12th and 13th at the Lloyd Erskine Sandy First Center. So more details are available, www.cutfestfairs.com. We also work with many schools across the world, recruiting all throughout the year. You can stay present in the Caribbean, whether in person or virtual. To learn more, definitely, I dropped my email and Tony's email in the session. So do not be a stranger. Come on down, learn more. Again, this session has been brought to you by the Student Center in collaboration with the Government of Canada. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy. When we are able to edit this session, we will make it available to all those that registered to attend. Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.